concerning the inhabitants of Otherworld. There are many similarities to be found parallel to our own society. The individual must be absorbed. The collective must be as one.
They can hear me, and they can hear you.
Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome, folks, to episode 212 of the HAC and JAC Show. I gotta get my serious voice, because this is a serious game we'll be talking about this evening. Jack, let me hear your serious voice. Thank you. That's the voice of a survivor. You're a survivor, Jack. You're a survivor. You're a survivor!
Where is he? Where is he?
Okay, now you're just Batman.
Man. Forgot the
Bears and rabbits. What are they? All right. But no, folks, this is episode 212 of the HAC and JAC Show, and we have a special episode for you guys this evening. So, in the past 211 episodes, we talked about many games and game-related topics. We've played a lot of games on this show, and many more will come in the future. However, one thing we haven't done is we haven't sit down and generally really talk about, with an analytical mind, the games of our past. And that's kind of what I hopefully if this episode is a success, it's something that Jack and I can do more, because we between he and I, we probably played dozens upon dozens of games from not only from our childhood, but also our teenage years. And a lot of those times, those games can sometimes get left behind, and we never look back. Sometimes there are always going to be the games that stuck with us, For example, I will always cherish and remember my experience playing Bayonetta 2. And if I know Jack well, and I should, he will forever regret putting all that hours into League of Legends and money. But on a more serious note, I also do know that he also put a lot of time and genuine effort into. If I can remember correctly, I'm trying to figure out more of a single player game because I know you like to dial out multiplayer stuff. But I remember, go through my mind palace. I see Jack, teenage Jack with his goofy glasses. In fact, it's the same ones he still wears today.
Hey.
Nah, he's got better glasses now. I'm going through my mind palace. And survey says Jack put in a lot of time into Stardew Valley.
Oh, for Steam?
No, just in no, just the game in general that we played during that time period. My mind went straight to
Stardew
start.
Valley didn't came out in that time, but uh,
Yeah,
I
see,
guess I'll.
I failed. I failed. I don't know him. I'm not a friend. Oh no! Cancel
Well,
the episode.
Here's let's put a little bit of salt on that to make sure, like, in the sense of
No.
like, to more like, let's correct it because to be fair,
Right.
we didn't really truly started talking until like senior year.
That is true. That is very true. And on top of that, aside from Halo, which I know that was definitely a big console experience for you, because of the short time you had with consoles in general. Once you transition to PC, you from my perspective, and you could definitely correct me. Once you transition to PC, you tended to play a lot of either very competitive games or games with some sort of social aspect to them, and I don't recall a lot of single player games during that time that you often shared or experienced about. But of course, I don't trust my memory, so please put the record straight.
So to put the record straight, really, it's more along this fact, and I'll keep it simple. I just did not have money. That's it.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's all
the
right.
reason why I went from console to PC was no one bought me any Xbox memberships, and then Minecraft was being a thing. So I was like, hey, I'm enjoying Minecraft. Someone in our group of people that we knew introduced me to League of Legends. It was a free game, so hey, free games. Because at that whole time, I was just hopping between free game to free game, even on my PC. But when it came to the Xbox, once when I did not have my membership, I ended up playing mostly a lot of what could have been multiplayer games by myself. So like Halo was mostly going through the campaign over and over again. Um, and also looking through the arcade section of Xbox 360.
Also, welcome Johnny, welcome Ghetto. I see you guys in the chat. Ghetto says to you, his quote unquote friend introduced him to LOL.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that those quotations are very much correct. Not even in the joking way. It was just like looking back at it. Yeah.
and Johnny says, flying in the stream has false information for having anything good to say about a Ubisoft game. Now hold on there a second. Hold your Brazilian horses.
Hold on.
Hold on. This we're going back in time. All of us we're in the animus right now, and we're going through not through our ancestors, but where Ubisoft was about 13 years ago into this very limited animus. And so, like, not explanation, but it next actually no, yeah, it is an explanation.
Backstory.
his backstory, thank you, that's the better word to use. With his backstory said, it comes to the question then, because this is actually a JAC game we're going to talking about for this evening. I never played it till today, but this is something that JAC has played when he was young, and when I presented this idea for an episode, this was the perfect opportunity for him to not only talk about the game, but also replay it with a new, fresh set of eyes. So, before we dive deep into all of the stuff that's going to go with I Am Alive, which, by the way, we will be talking about the game in depth, with everything that happens. So, again, it's over a decade old game, so I think we're past the point of any spoiler warning, but we need to be upfront that we'll be discussing every aspect of the game in and out. So for anyone watching this live or in the replay, consider this your caution proceeding forward from here. Now, like I said, before we proceed to actually talk about the game, I'm actually curious of how JAC was able to acquire what was originally a XBLA game that Ubisoft Shanghai released all the way back in 2012. This wasn't a physical game you could get on disc. You can only get it through the digital stores on Xbox and on the PS3. So, go ahead, JAC, share your story.
Funny enough, this even goes even more convoluted. When I first tried out the game, I was scrolling through the arcade section of Xbox Live, and the good thing about it at this moment was you're able to scroll through even with the silver membership, so you did not need any sort of fancy membership to be able to do anything.
Yeah, no Xbox Gold here.
Yep. So, at that time, I again did not have money, so I tried out the demo because it did have a demo, and you were able to play it up to like a certain point. I think in this case was like the up to like the first building you were able to scale decently.
So with that, if memory serves correct, that would be the mall, right?
Yes.
Gotcha.
So from there, the game ends on the demo. I was really, really enjoying it. I played it several times over as a kid. And years later, in a way, I forgot about it, but also at the same time, it left an impression on me that I really wished I could have had this game. Then one day on Steam, I don't remember what game I was searching for, but when I typed in I am, that was one of the few games that popped up on Steam, and I realized that I was able to get the game. And thankfully at this time, at the age of 16, I was already having some sort of income. I went ahead and bought it. And I don't remember what day specifically on that time I played it, but I played it through the whole game, and I just loved it for what I considered it to be ahead of its time in certain aspects.
All
And
right.
playing it now, it
Oh,
definitely holds up, but we'll get into that later.
yes, we will. We will indeed. So thank you for the more backstory, JAC. We're getting a full lore dump on JAC over here. So so everyone get your Hack JAC wikis updated. Well, we're what time about? We're not big enough for wikis yet. Once we have loot fan art and wikis, that's how we know we made it.
Yep.
Telltale signs. A comment from Ghetto. He says everyone has that one game they loved as a kid that nobody in their friend group has played and nobody ever talks about. That is very true, and certainly it also applies to me because I was the weird kid who who had a Wii, and so I had to really dig deep in the Wii's library for for unique games that no one talks about anymore. Now, Anyone a fan of Sega Power Tennis? No, Sonic and what's it called? Sonic and Sega Tennis or something like that. It's basically a tennis game with Sega characters, and it does not play like Virtua Tennis. It's not that good. But
I remember that being advertised a long time ago.
Yeah, but I played it. I put time into it. All right, so I want to hear and set the I want to hear it go here and set the stage, and at least give you an idea of what. I'll give you an idea, not an idea, but set the stage for the game that we're going to talk about. And to do that, first, I actually want to present you the original trailer for the game, which the original trailer is actually came out in 2008, 4 years before the actual game released, and I think and there is also another one. Do you think, Jack? Do you want to also show the gameplay trailer, how the game eventually turned into, and compare, and so that the audience can see what was the initial concept versus the final concept?
I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, because there are two trailers. We'll definitely show the original trailer for it. So I'm gonna go in and put it up here, and of course, Jack, I will share you the link so you can watch it on your end. We'll watch it straight through, no pauses. It is a very short trailer, so there's really no reason to do so. There you go, Jack. I put it on your sources, and let me go and full screen this. Change the. There we go. All right, we're already on the stream to watch the video of the original E3 2008 trailer. Are you ready, Jack?
I am ready.
All right, so without further ado, let's check out the initial trailer for I Am Alive. Pressing play in 3, 2, 1, play.
Come on, Adam. You know what we want.
You don't stand a chance. Come on. Water! Water!
I'll see you upstairs, Adam.
Uh-huh.
And that was the trailer for I Am Alive. Very, not much in terms of the gameplay department, but the trailer serves its purpose to give you the idea of the tone and type of atmosphere the game is set in. And Johnny, to your comment where he says at least it's not zombies, I was actually surprised at that myself, because Jack has talked about the game to me in the past, and in my mind, with the way he described it, I assumed that it was a zombie game or a game about some sort of infestation. But no, this is actually one of the rare survival, like post society has crumbled games that has nothing to do with zombies, virus infections, or anything of that ilk. So already,
I would I
Yes.
I would like to in my defense, I did say that it's more of an environment versus player type of thing. I never specified zombies.
Keep in mind, this was years ago. All right.
Oh, I thought you meant like recently.
No, no, years ago when you just mentioned it, and of course with a title like "I Am Alive," it has a very
I Am Legends type of thing.
yeah, basically. So, and when you say that title plainly, it's very natural to think that someone's saying, okay, it's something to do with life or death, and it's a post-apocalypse, maybe something like zombie. And also, I also admit, there's also, even though the game came a year later, The Last of Us also was, because I've also played that game, so that also influences my thinking with that type of title.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I think it was zombies. But to move on from that, it is not. There is no zombies or anything of that sort. Johnny comments, "You both don't remember. It can't be trusted. Neither Hack nor Jack. If those are your real names." Oh, I guess. Johnny says, "Good lord, Last of Us is that old?" Yes, 2013, man. The original game that came out on PS3 came out in 2013, and according to certain uh mainstream articles, that's also where games started to have stories. Apparently, I still remember that joke. It was like a timeline of games where it says 1985 Super Mario Brothers, nothing for the next like 20 odd years to 2013 Last of Us. Now games have stories. It took
I was just like, damn. Okay, the Halo story. I guess that's not a story. That no,
yeah,
no.
or Deus Ex or Metal Gear,
The Elder. Well,
Mega
actually,
Man.
yeah. Some of the first Elder Scrolls had stories.
Yeah, I think from 3 it had like at least a coherent story, but they all have some sort of narrative. But that was the joke. All right, now so you can have two perspectives here. You have a perspective of Jack, who not only is extremely familiar with the game, but it can give you that contrast from his experience playing it very recently to when he played it um, back then when he bought it on Steam. And me, I can show you as a more fresh. This is like my first experience playing the game, and give you uh what I think of it coming into this very blind. So I still have one more thing I want to show up before we start actually talking about it. And I know we'll get to it, but I actually want to cite a review from Game Informer to give you guys an idea of what was the common opinion of the game when it came out, so that we have a better understanding of how the game was received back in 2012. And I'm gonna see. Da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. All right. I'm not gonna read the whole review, even though it is short. But for brevity, I'll be reading the final paragraph, and I'll show you guys here on the stream so you can see it for yourself. And I quote: "Good survival games have been hard to come by this console generation." This is referring to the 7th generation, so the PS3 and 360 and Wii. "But I Am Alive proves there is still new ground to break. The gray, oppressive atmosphere, constant struggle to find supplies, and combating wanton scavenger transports players to a world only experienced in harrowing novels like Cormac McCarthy's The Road. I Am Alive's desperate scenarios and inventive gameplay should not be missed by masochistic gamers interested in entering a world of unrelenting dread." And that comes, and Game Informer gave it an 8.5 out of 10. This review comes from us by Tim Turry, posted on March 6, 2012 at 5 o'clock in the morning. Ooh, he had a deadline. All right. Thank you, Game Informer. So, based on that, the game, and from other reviews I saw in preparing for the stream, the game was received very positively when it came out. Let's see how time has treated I Am Alive, which was developed by Ubisoft Shanghai, who are unfortunately no longer around. All right, so I did take now. Jack and I have took notes. I have made sure that to categorize my notes by the hour of playtime. So unless you got something similar, Jack, I'm gonna go by what I experienced within the first hour, second, and third, and you can of course add in what your experiences throughout that. I guess that structure. That's how I want to structure it, since it will, so we can be on the same page and we know exactly where we are in the game.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and if you do want to, if
are we gonna?
Oh, as I say, if you do actually want to jump to a particular topic of the game, and you don't want to wait for it, you can let me know and we'll go straight to it. We'll just have to provide some context.
All right. Aren't we gonna give context of how the game looks like? Because I did just send the gameplay trailer.
Yes. Yes. We will. Actually, it's very important because is that the Game Informer article does not, what's the word I'm looking for? It does not oversell its uniqueness, because it's, when you think of a third person survival action game, it's not Last of Us, it's not the Metro games, it's not even Fallout. It is its very own unique experience. And we'll go ahead then for our final build up, watch the actual gameplay trailer, that so you guys have a better understanding of what we've played in these past recent weeks. So here you go, folks. I'm ready to play. Jack, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, pressing play in 3, 2, 1, play.
I don't think anyone really knows what happened for certain. Something big, that's for sure. Then the dust and the fumes killed everything. Well, almost.
What are you doing here, boy?
We don't much like uninvited guests.
I'm gonna beat your skull like a drum.
And for now, I am alive.
All right, there you go. Now that's an actual good representation of the final game. Now, start to look at something on my end. All right, let's go ahead and properly start talking about I Am Alive, and I'll go ahead and give you a quick summary of what this game is about, and I will read it from the Steam page itself that you can look up right now if you have Steam. And Jack, let me know how accurate this is, and according to Steam, it says, after having conquered hundreds of thousands of diehard survival enthusiasts. Oh wait. Yeah, I'll read this part. and fans of dark post-apocalyptic fictions on consoles, I Am Alive, the groundbreaking survival adventure game, is finally coming to PC digital platforms. I Am Alive casts the player as a lone survivor in the believable, dark, and insecure post-apocalyptic world. 1 year after the event, a worldwide cataclysmic event that wiped most of the human race, a man struggles for survival in a desolate city as he tries to reunite with his long-lost wife and daughter. And that is the end of the blurb on the Steam page. What do you say? You think that's an accurate description of the game?
I would say so, yeah.
All right. Now let's go ahead and get to it. All right. So first things first, because this is a decade-old game, the question is, how well does this run on modern PCs? Well, this is something that both Jack and I experience, in that after you install the game and try to launch it, the game will try to find the Windows 7 operating system. Of course, unless you do have Windows 7 on your PC for whatever reason, it will not find it. But Jack did some research. I did the risky move and just said continue. The game played without any issue, so you do not need to have Windows 7 to run this game.
And I would also like to clarify, when I was in the process of doing my research, I found nothing. Proceeded to open the game again, it did not even prompt me once. So it just said, it's like kind of like that thing of, I prefer if you had a Windows 7, but I guess I'll run.
Pretty much so. All right. So as you begin the game, it starts with an opening cutscene of which you see a woman in some sort of shelter sitting down and turning on a video camera. And this is one of the important narrative devices of the entire game, in that the whole game is actually it is a flashback, as we are experiencing the events through the recording that the main protagonist recorded for the whole adventure of the game. And so with actually, I was with every cutscene, almost every cutscene, all of it is shown through the camera footage. Is that correct? Is that correct, Jack?
That is correct.
Yep. So there you go. And also, I actually thought initially I missed the main character's name, but no, your main character, in the tradition of old school JRPGs, has no name. You are a nameless character. The only thing you do know about yourself is that when the event, which is the disaster that the game refers to, when the event happened, you were not in the city of Haventon where the game takes place. You were actually on the other side of the country, in the West Coast, right? He was in the West Coast or the East Coast?
East Coast.
He was in the East Coast, and because of that, he was unable to be with his family, being his wife and daughter, when the event happened. So the game provides the backstory that you nameless protagonist, have arrived after a year-long journey into Haventon, and you are setting on your quest to find your missing wife and daughter in the now ruins of your home city. So that is all the backstory you get in the beginning and your motivation for the game. Now, Jack, as you were starting to play for replaying this game first after many years, what was the first thing that caught your attention within the first few seconds that you got to actually control your character?
The first time I played it, or this current time I played it?
This current time.
So I have it here in my notes. So when I started the game, I wrote here. I started the game on the hardest difficulty and was greeted by to the first cutscene after starting a new file. The graphics are pretty rough for the opening cutscene, which was literally the part where it was just a zoom in of the faces.
Mm. Yes.
Uh, mhm.
I'd actually like to add, because this was originally a digital game you could only download. It was not given a big Ubisoft budget that Ubisoft is infamous for. So if you do play the game, do expect to see a lot of not only reusing of assets, but a lot of looking for a, a lot of actually no, yeah, well, no, not reusing of assets, but the visuals are not finely polished. This is not a AAA game. This this is pretty much what you. It's like an in between what could be an indie game and the double A game. I think that's the best way to describe it. It certainly doesn't look cheap, but they the team Ubisoft Shanghai have only so many resources, and they can't be making. Their main goal is not to make nice faces. Not that anyone should have a nice face in the post-apocalypse.
Correct. And going a little bit more about that, I rereading the sentence said graphics are pretty rough for the opening cutscene since the last I remembered, but not as bad as I thought it would be. Because I mean, considering nowadays everything looks just like you could see everyone's individual pores or the polygons in a certain character is just very smooth. So, but and then reading ahead says once in the game, you could see the game still holds up. The landscape is very desolate and dreary, and you get this film grain that's kind of a yellowish gray tint on it. It This atmosphere and the way the game kind of has this filter on it really does hide a lot of the blemishes that the graphics would have had, because like looking at just the trailer itself, you could see that it graphically it still holds up to this day, at least in my opinion.
When I first saw the game properly, once you could actually start control, is not a pre-rendered cutscene. Um, the first thing, as the game goes up, you see that the game's made in Unreal, which at the time would have been Unreal 3, which is was the popular engine to use for a lot of game development during that time. And it also made me remember of the trend of very desaturated and muddy colors, of how that was a very popular uh popular color scheme during that time. I still recall a lot of the jokes about of how pretty much related to Call of Duty and Gears of War, how those games looks, and Battlefield, mostly
Mm-hmm.
shooters. And because of that, this game could get lost if you just strictly look at it visually, as like, oh, this kind of looks like a cheaper Gears of War, because of the way it looks. And personally, how I feel about the actual visuals of the game, I, I somewhat agree with Jack in that I believe the visuals are actually appropriate for the setting and the story that the game is telling, and for the type of game it is. However, as we go along, there are many points where the visuals really start to hinder the experience. And the one thing I want to call out first is I wish I could get rid of that film grain, because that film grain just it it makes things hard to see, especially later on. I do not like that film grain filter that's everywhere in the entire game.
I would like to counter and say I never really experienced an issue, even on my first playthrough of the film grain itself. In fact, that's pr- especially during the big section, which is I guess I would call it the hub section, because it's like you're traversing a hub to various different locations.
Yes.
In the streets, the it's very appropriate for the fact that it's covered in dust. So like of course vision is obscured because of the actual setting.
Then that is true. The problem is the visuals already give that obscurity without having the need of a grain filter, because I believe they probably use that filter probably to hide some imperfections in the game, but also to give it a more, to use a term, cinematic feel, like you're watching like an old movie. and and for the most time you can deal with it, and it's fine. But for me, there are often times where I feel like if I could just turn this setting off, I wouldn't my it would not be painful for me to look at the game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of one of the things for me that really stood out, and we'll talk about more of how that become a hindrance later on. Now, I now I'm gonna put on my little game designer hat on, because one of the things that really surprised me about this game is that it is very unique compared to other post-apocalypse survival games, in that this is actually, when you strip it down to its mechanics, if you take away the setting, the narrative, and the presentation, if you stripped it down to its mechanics, I Am Alive is, I guess, the best way to describe it. It is a resource management platformer,
Yep. Yeah, I can definitely agree with that.
which I can't think of many. I can make many games that combine that of platforming and resource management. And the resource management you're managing is your ability to platform. That's the big design design gimmick of this game. Because one unique thing, that because it's a Ubisoft game, that means you have experienced Ubisoft designers who, more than likely, I can't say this for 100% certain, but with 99% certain, I'm going to assume that most of the people working on this game had a lot of experience with Assassin's Creed and Prince of Persia, as those were the big Ubisoft games that did not have the Tom Clancy label on it. You know, Prince of Persia was the Ubisoft game for the 2000s, and then that transitioned to Assassin's Creed, which by 2012, you know, Assassin's Creed was still looked upon very fondly, and people, you know, weren't ashamed to call themselves diehard fans by that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so they take a lot of that platforming philosophy and design and decide to, you know what, since you are a regular guy and it's all about resources and trying to manage it, we're going to give you that Prince of Persia, Assassin's Creed platforming, give it the bare essentials, and you have to make sure that every climb, every jump, and every item is used carefully, or else if you do not platform correctly or properly time things, you are guaranteed to fall and die.
Yep.
So that's the big. And now there is also a combat section, which we'll get into soon. But this is the type of game you're going to be experiencing. Again, a resource management platformer. Mario with a stamina bar.
Yep.
Oh man. So now I actually do want to
Sorry, but I really wanted to talk a little bit more about the stamina bar.
Go ahead.
Because it does get into the game very early on.
Go ahead.
So, with the stamina bar, one thing I do enjoy about this stamina bar compared to others in different games is the fact that when you hear the fact that there is a stamina bar in any certain game, it's usually just a 100 to 0 and like percentages. So like If you're doing something heavy, it'll slowly start going down. Same thing with this game. But one thing I did find very interesting from this game when I was little is the fact that once when you do hit 0, you don't just automatically fall. Albeit in some cases it will be annoying, but there is a way to quote unquote push through being tired and finish up the thing that you're currently climbing or doing in that moment. And the way the game does it is it will let you push through as long as you start button mashing the the,
The-
the indicated button that they ask you for.
Is the right trigger.
But you're well, at least in this case, yes, the right trigger. But you start to lose the max stamina you have at that moment. But there are many ways to get that back later on in the game, and we'll explain that a little bit more later.
Mm-hmm. And I neglected to ask, what difficulty did you play the game in?
Hardest difficulty.
I only played it on normal, so I'm curious to see what did they change to make the game hard. Now, to actually answer that, when you talk about the stamina, you know what my mind immediately when that mechanic was explained and of course the game puts you in a tutorial section where you have to do that so you understand how it works. When I reached that part, the first thing on my mind that made me go back to in comparison and also gave me like a little bit of dread was Dark Souls 2. and in my head I'm going, oh no.
You know, and one detail I like, this is just from a purely game design standpoint, was the terrifying music that ends up swelling. Like to really set you that mood that hey, you're getting tired.
Yeah,
you better do something.
Yeah, it's basically the Sonic drowning music for the game.
Yes.
except a lot more anxiety inducing.
Albeit in some cases, once when you're like later into the game, it does get annoying. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's I'm losing my hand, the feeling in my fingers. Yeah. But initially, I really did enjoy that little art detail where it just like, and I even went at a time to even look at how long it would take. So like at 25%, at 25% or 75%, you would start hearing the violins kind of trickle in with a little bit of like this pitter patter.
Yep, and
then
go ahead.
I think at 50%, that's when you start very lightly hearing these drums kind of being played in, almost like when there's a build up. Down to once when you get to 70 to 25%, you'll start hearing all the instruments together.
Yep,
and it gets really, really loud at 0.
Yep, and to use a musical term, basically as you are using up your stamina, the music crescendos and more instruments are added to add into the anxiety. And for the most part, I'll put it this way: there is a few times where the music fit the situation, and I was like, oh crap, gotta get to solid ground, or gotta use a piton. But most of the time is like, all right, yeah, play the music, get up, go on a platform, rest a bit, all right, go back to climbing.
Yep.
Which that's gonna for a majority of the platforming, there is going to be a lot of regular climbing, pausing to regain stamina, and then keep on going. There's going to be a lot of that. Now, I'm looking through my notes. I played through the first hour of the game, and let's see. And one thing I noticed is that in terms of the controls, again going back my game design hat, the controls are extremely contextualized. Now, to explain what I mean is that when you're not near a platform that you can interact with, or you're not in a combat situation, most of the buttons that you press won't really do anything. At least in terms of actions, you have two buttons that are dedicated your to your menus. You have a crouch button that you use to crouch. That's the only action you can do without any context within your environment or an NPC. But and with your range weapons, you can aim at them and believe fire them, at least with the arrow. But I didn't want to test it out to see if I can do it without an enemy around because I don't want to risk resources. But those are the things and of course movement. You can move around pretty freely. But other than that, a lot of your actions you do are very contextualized, and that is and is very heavily so when you enter a combat scenario. Which, actually, Jack, do you actually want to start? Do you want to go talking about the combat, or is there anything around the beginning of the game you want to go talk about first before we go into how combat works in this game?
All right, let's actually go a little bit more back in time, just like I would say 10 minutes.
All right.
So right here, because I remember most of it through my own timestamps. Say here, I met my first encounter, and this was talking about being once when you finally got through the bridge and you're entering into the sewers, you meet this one man that is sitting there and basically threatening you. I'm assuming he had a gun in this one, if I remember correctly.
Yes, he did.
And the guy literally points the gun at you, starts yelling at you, telling you to go away. Your character, anytime, whenever there is a moment where he is not going to be in an active, not yet active situation or fight, he will always put up his hands to kind of give you just to give you an indication of the fight hasn't started yet. We'll see what this goes. And right here, this is a good point because the game teaches you that not every encounter needs a fight. You don't need to always waste resources. There are some people or NPCs in the game that just want to be left alone, and of course, if you do not listen to the guy, he will shoot you, and then game over.
Which when you come to the end game, uh, it's up with not the end game, but especially when you enter the part where you're in the the giant ship that was somehow got cast in the middle of the city. At least for me, maybe this just shows how I played it. Avoiding combat, uh, avoiding combat was something that you could not do, and you actually did have to start fighting. And I view it as once you get past the boat section forward, there was very any opportunities for me to actually properly sneak around. I was essentially had to fight almost everyone I encountered. So that's also one thing that I think the game could have done better and given you either better ways or more opportunities for you to avoid combat. Because at a certain point, you do have to start killing people.
There is a one bit of caveat to that.
Mm-hmm.
So, considering that I am playing in the hardest difficulty, the game's way of making it difficult is it will completely minimize the amount of items that you will get throughout the game to essentially the bare minimum and then some. When I say bare minimum and then some, I mean as in bare minimum to get 120%. And then some being, okay, if you ever make a few mistakes, here you go. I'll throw you an extra food can or two. So, but at the same time, when I went through the game, I had experienced both the avoidance of combat and the actual combat because whenever you are going around helping survivors, there are some survivors that will be cautious of you right off the bat, or they have a guard up in the front. So, for example, there is one moment where in the main streets you go up to a building that has just one guy with a machete in the front. He just stands there and he's like telling you, "Don't come. I'm gonna stab you." Clearly, you have a bunch of items you can definitely beat him up with. Since he didn't even come near me, I decided to not even go ahead and fight him. I went around him up to the second part of the building and was able to help out a few survivors, and then came back down and avoided that fight entirely.
Was this in the skyscraper?
Not inside the skyscraper. It was on the roofs.
On, on the roof of the skyscraper.
Yes, on the roof on some of the buildings.
Was it the one where you have to shoot fireworks in order to send a signal, or is it before that?
No. No, we haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, because I'm trying. Because I am trying to remember. I'm trying to remember. I do want to share a funny anecdote. With the very first like proper combat section you get into, again to show my skills as a gamer. That section I died way more than I should have.
Oh no! How many times?
I don't recall. Definitely more than twice. Now here's the thing. It took me to well to understand how the game wants you to approach combat. Because one thing that really does make this game unique in terms of mechanics is that, again, it goes back to what I said, that your actions are very contextualized. And combat is very much so. So once you entered your very first combat scenario where you actually have to defend yourself, the first thing the game teaches you is that more often than not, you have to let the enemy come to you, because that's so that you can do a sneak attack, which is always which is a button for that only shows up when that prompt appears. That's and in almost every situation you want to do that because you can surprise your opponent, and then from there you can immediately go into your next action. Now, because I'm treating this like as any other action game, I was under the assumption that once I got that machete as an item, I thought that just pressing X will let me use the machete. No, you can only use it in the context of a sneak attack. You cannot use it outside of that. It took me a while to figure out that's how the game is designed.
I will give this at least like some kind of I guess I'll play devil's advocate because whenever the game does preface all this, it does say to you that you cannot be able to fight these guys alone. Because on the first I guess the second encounter. And this is where I actually wrote down some notes about it. So the game introduced the second encounter, the one that I love the most, the bluffing mechanic. So you have no bullets, but you still have options.
That's true.
You can bluff out the enemies in a bad situation and take advantage of their predicament. You have 3 people come at you at the very first moment, and one of them will get near you and they'll start like shoving you a little bit, just antagonizing you. You do your sneak attack. Now, if I think about it in a real life setting, if I just go around with the machete, yeah, I could probably get the first guy, but even though I'm going to be busy with the second guy, the third guy's going to go right behind me and then smack me. because they one thing the game teaches you is that these enemies will not wait for you. They will run
Yes.
at you whenever they have the chance.
Yes, which is something I had to learn the hard way because that's a section, the second encounters where I died a lot. Because again, I was not playing the game on its terms. I was treating it like any other third person game. So so it took me a few retries to figure out what the game wants me to do, and plus, um, one bad habit that I had that I quickly got rid of was where I did do the bluff. You know, I aimed the gun so they put their hands there, and I would get close, and I would try to do like a quick stab with the machete. But if you do that, you
Yeah.
don't actually do a quick stab. You do what's a struggle kill, where basically you enter this prefab animation where you have to tap a button uh, in order to achieve your kill because the your enemy is resisting your attack. However, that leaves you open. There is no iframes, none of that. There's no such thing as iframes in this game. You are open to any attack, and if you do that, or if you're in the middle of an animation, an enemy will come at you and attack you, and you cannot take that much damage.
Yep.
So I had to learn
Yep.
I had to learn after a few tries pretty quickly that especially once you got a gun, you get a proper bullet. I had to learn pretty quick to sneak attack, shoot the second guy, and then aim the gun to the third guy, go up to him, and then try to kill him with a machete. And you have to do this all with what feels like in the blink of an eye. And that's how a lot of encounters are, which I think is actually pretty unique. That you have to be on your toes with every encounter, and and at least on normal, it could be different on the hard difficulty, but on normal, I did like there was a satisfaction of you were able to flawlessly eliminate everyone without taking any damage. So that's one of the things that make combat also very um rewarding. Just that act that you were able to kill everyone with just an arrow, one bullet, and your machete.
And to add to this, the cool things is to add to the whole make sure you're looking at what you're doing. In the game, there are certain sections where you obviously see a giant pitfall. And the game in the very beginning of the second encounter will instruct you about this too, so you aren't really left in the dark about it.
Oh,
The game will
oh
tell
my
you
god.
to
Oh, go ahead, keep going.
the game will go ahead, and as soon as you have like two people or just one person left, you have your gun out, and you keep telling them to back up. Like the game prompts you, press this button, and your character just says back up. They start moving back because they don't know that you're empty. From there, they're standing at a ledge, and you can obviously see this enemy looking at the ledge and looking back at you. If you go up to them, instead of having the prompt to struggle kill, it'll give you a prompt to strike. And when you do that, your character literally just goes ahead, kicks them off into the ether of whatever that hole is. And that's it. They die.
Jack, I'm completely honest. I forgot about that mechanic, and I never used it after the tutorial.
There you go. There you go.
If I may defend myself, there was not a lot of combat scenarios where there was a pit I can throw an enemy to.
You are correct, but I will also add this too. I guess it's like a small trap card of like 100 points of damage. There are fires. If you see a fire pit, you can actually kick them into a fire pit, and they'll burn up.
Oh wow, I did not know that. Huh.
Yep. You gotta think. Sometimes the game has you think outside the box with the mechanics. One thing I did realize, especially I guess going more deep into the combat itself, and I'm gonna ask you this, Hack.
Mm-hmm.
When it came later towards the game where you now have to do firefights against well, I guess small firefights against other enemies. Did you have the the notice of at least waiting to see who has a gun and who does not have a gun and dealing with the ones that have a gun?
Actually, yes, I learned that lesson very quick because I think the game may have even tell you, but if not, you know, through uh through just the way enemies are, because there's very because you only got a certain types of enemies. You got enemy a with a melee weapon, enemy with a ranged weapon, and then later on you get enemy with armor. Basically you want to get rid of the enemy with the ranged weapon first, because they can shoot, because obviously they can shoot you and do a lot of damage. But what's a cool thing that I did a lot was when I did find those enemies, of course I quickly shoot them, and then I would rush over their dead bodies to steal their guns so that I can get back, so I could basically get back the bullet I just used.
Yes. Yeah, and one thing that I enjoyed a lot when it, and this actually happened fairly recently because for for a little bit of context, today I didn't have, I last week I did not have time to be able to play the game for the other half of the game. So I spent the last 2 hours to playing it right now. And there was a moment where you have a lot of these enemies and you're sticking them all up at gunpoint because I went ahead and dealt with the guy that had the gun. Um, I never noticed this, but if you take too long, not just they're gonna run at you. That's one thing. Yes, of course, if you take too long, they're gonna run at you. But if you also take too long and you're looking at someone else, one of the machete guys will run straight towards the body of that guy that you just killed and take their gun.
That Yep, that will have that. I can also has happened to me, especially during the final firefight of the game, and that took a while for me to complete.
But it was like I never noticed that because I guess when I was a kid, I just went through it pretty quickly in some cases. But in this one, I was taking my time mostly to see what I can find around the area, and I never realized that it never really did anything to me because I managed my retries to maximize the amount of bullets I can take into a combat situation.
Oh, actually,
So I was.
what?
Go ahead.
Actually, we haven't explained what retries are.
Ah, you're right.
Yeah, so
So
I'll I'll I'll, I'll go ahead because I actually wanted to ask you about that. So pausing the combat talk for a bit. So one of the big design mechanics of this game is that, counter to what was the design trend of the time, in which, the 7th generation, so during the 360 PS3 days, there was a lot more utilization of having autosave features, and I Am Alive does have that, but in order to actually to make this game have a challenge, your autosave your autosaves, no, or your checkpoints. That's the best way to word it. Checkpoint. That's what they call it. Your checkpoints. They are limited per every uh a zone or section that you enter. So in a in a very bizarre way, the game is almost designed like an old NES or Super Nintendo platformer, where, hey, you start off with this many lives, and you have only those, to complete a level. I Am Alive takes that philosophy and of course gives it a different type of presentation, to where you are losing a life and redoing a section, um but the way they presented it is more appropriate for the game it is. You know, you don't get one ups, you get retries, and that's what retries are. They're basically your lives, which I thought was an
Yep.
interest, which I thought was very interesting to add in. And now, when you pick normal, you start off with 3 retries at the start. At the start of every zone you go to. Now it changes based on the difficulty. So Jack, tell me on your difficulty, how many retries did the game start you with?
It started me with, if I'm correct, it was still 3, but they never refreshed. So on the next zone, I just went with what I had.
I see. So again, to add more context, when you complete a zone, which is what we call it because that's how the game is structured, you complete a zone of an area, whether it's a platforming section or a combat section, or just traversing the hub. You go the game is always going to be a point A to point B, and once you reach point B, your retries or lives basically they reset. They reset if you have less than 3, but if you have more than 3, then you keep the extra retries that you collect, which we'll explain later how you collect more. But in Jack's hard difficulty, after he completes a zone, it doesn't reset. He is stuck with the retries that he has after he completes that zone.
And I would like to add a caveat, because throughout the whole game, there was only one instance where I had an issue with lives in the sense of like struggling to get them. But for most of the game, I had at least 5 retries. And at the end of the game, I had 10.
Good lord. I technically had 6, but and I'm definitely sure you did this. There are in certain zone and sections, because the game does not save the items or resources you collect. You basically have to recollect them if you have to retry. There are certain sections where you can, like, even if you have 0 retries left, if you if you if you either go to a certain area that has a free retry available, or if you one ways to collect them, if you save someone, if you save someone, they give you a retry, and if you lose, all you have to do to make sure to not get a complete game over is to keep saving the same person until you beat that zone, which I had to do for at least in 2 instances throughout the entire game. One, I believe, one in the sewers maybe, and definitely in the final battle.
So for me, I never really had that issue, but at the same time, there were instances where yes, that did happen. So like for example, later on in the game, you get like a retry that's just kind of sitting there because the game is about to give you the tutorial about armored enemies. So they kind of expected people to die here, so that's why they gave a free retry there. And I most of the times use my retries not because I died, but mostly because I said, no, I didn't like that fight. No, I think I could do better.
I think that happened to me one time where the fight did not go the way I wanted. So out of frustration, I said to myself, "You know, just kill me. I'm gonna retry this. Just kill me." I think that happened to me only
No,
one time.
No, I don't even give them the pleasure of killing me. I just press start, retry to last checkpoint.
Oh, oh! At least give them the pleasure. Like, hey, you know, I lose. Let's do this again.
No, never. I'll never give. The only times and I've ever died. Actually, hold on. Let me read a few things here.
Right.
Oh, I'll wait on the dying section for a bit. So let's go into the aspect of how people are able to get retries.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, on very small, very rare instances, you will see them around. For me, I've only saw them 3 times throughout the whole game, just sitting there. I don't know about you though.
Wait, in terms of saving people?
No, no, no. The retries, the camcorders just
Oh,
sitting there.
I did not keep account of how many there were sitting there, but they are, well, maybe in hard they're rare. I'm not gonna say they're common or normal, but they are, to use a nomenclature, they are uncommon.
For me, I rarely saw them.
And you do have to do like some exploring to even get them. So very rarely as you're focusing on the main path or objective, will you come across them. You do have to like do some searching around to find extra retries.
Yeah. But so at least when it comes to normal, you're able to get them kind of regularly if you search around. In hard, not so much from my experience, and this is me going through almost like every nook and cranny of the game. The only way I was able to consistently get retries was by helping out survivors.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to helping out survivors, there'll be a few survivors kind of sitting here and there, depending on where you're at, and they will ask for a item from you.
Yep, and at least on normal, for the most part, you will end up having the item you need. I think there's only one section that I actually could not help help the survivor, and only because I did not have it at the time, and I couldn't find it because it was actually one of the more rare items to seek out. But yeah, at least on normal, when you do help someone, you will you'll end up 9 times out of 10 having the item they need, and sometimes the item they ask for, some of them are health items that you know, your own consumable that you can use for yourself. But there's a few where, all right, this is definitely a item to give to someone, and you're not supposed to use yourself.
Yeah, there is so like to give an example, there are some items that you technically would like to keep, so like bottles of water, food cans,
Health kits.
inhalers. Yeah, med kits, those are really rare, at least especially in hard. I personally never used them.
Uh, I think I've only used it once, but even then, they were pretty uncommon. But I always ended up having a few that I could just give it to someone who needed it, and it wouldn't hinder me.
So yeah, so most of these items were things that you would need to give. The obvious ones that would be more of a detriment to you than anything would be things like vices like cigarettes and wine.
Oh, the wine.
Those were definitely things you're like, okay, I don't think I'm gonna really need this because some of them actually, the cigarettes they will give you health, but you
Yeah.
lose capacity on your stamina.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the wine was the opposite.
I didn't use them because I was like, why would I use an item that will give me a debuff?
Yeah. So I generally avoided using them and mainly kept them to give. In
And
fact, I mainly avoided using a lot of my resources.
and and actually, the game does have a set number of people you can save. In total, throughout the entire game, and this is for all difficulties, there is a maximum amount of 20 people you can saved. And so we're gonna share how many people we saved in our playthroughs. So Jack,
Hmm.
by
It was.
hold on.
Hmm.
By the end of the game, I saved 11 out of 20 people.
Oh, nice.
How many people did you save?
16 out of 20.
Five more than me, which means that
Yeah.
Jack definitely did more searching around than I did. I do want to ask this because it's related to the victims and it's fresh in my mind. In the skyscraper section, which is near the latter half of the game where you got to shoot the fireworks, were you able to help that group of survivors with their elevator?
No, I was not able to.
Dang it!
And
I only was able to help them halfway. For context again, to provide context, there is a section of the game where you're scaling a skyscraper and you reach a certain floor, and there is a group of survivors who have pretty much who are started to live there. And one of the things that to help them is to get their elevators to work, and to do so, you got to you have to fix their generators, but you need a certain item to fix their generators. And I searched high and low, and I was only able to fix one of their elevators by when I scaled outside the skyscraper into this random floor. There was a crazy guy about to kill me. I killed him, and then I took the item needed to fix one of the elevators. I couldn't find another one to fix it. So, and at a certain point, I gave up and continued on with the game.
I am going to give you some breaking news on that.
What's the breaking news?
So, well, first of all, I remember very vividly. I did manage to get the elevator working on my first playthrough, but I guess second playthrough I just didn't have that same luck. Now, second of all, did you end up when you were in that skyscraper, before you got up to the second floor where all the other people are at? Did you end up killing those people that were there sitting?
Oh, you mean with that initial floor before you start scaling on the outside?
Yes.
Okay, so that one, no, because so when I first went in, I saw them. They're kind of grouped around. They're around a campfire, right?
Yep.
I didn't have much. I didn't have much to protect me at that point, and I tried to go at them, but they easily killed me. So when I retried that, I go, you know what, this isn't worth it to fight them. So I actually end up sneaking past them by I think it was there is a narrow passage you can go through in which you can sneak by that entire group, and you don't have to fight them, and that's what I did.
So I will give you this because this was a mistake I did on my first playthrough, and I kind of accidentally avoided it on my second playthrough until I remembered. Those people are innocent.
Really?
Those people, and the guy that you said that you killed that was crazy, also innocent. Because when you like on my first playthrough, I killed them and went upstairs. When I went upstairs, you'll be talking to these people and they'll be like, who are you? How'd you get up here? Oh, did you see my parents? They're on the first floor below you. They're on the first floor below us.
I didn't get that dialogue.
Yep, and even on my second playthrough when I didn't kill them, they said that. They're like, "Oh yeah, who are you?" And you had to get close to them. It was a blonde girl. She was kind of sitting there, and she's like, how'd you get up here? Are you the guys that's supposed to be fixing our elevators?"
Oh, okay, I know you're talking about. It's that young boy. Okay, no, I didn't kill any of those people.
Okay.
No. There's another floor you get where you can get the basically the gas for the generator, and it's a random guy who once you enter in, because you have to platform on the side of the building to get to it. Once you get in, he sees you and immediately starts to attack you. And it's just a single guy in that
was he a big guy?
Yeah, and it's a single guy in that entire floor.
Bald.
I think so.
He was also innocent.
I had trouble believing that only because by the at the end of the game when you give you the stats, the game tells you if you killed any innocent people, and the game gave you
Well,
uh huh.
the game gives it in the sense of like people that don't attack you, or like that don't attack you and do attack you.
Well, well,
He he was still technically innocent because he saw you coming right out of where he was protecting.
yeah, but then you can say that for everyone else you encounter of the game. Unless that for those who have a weapon on them, I should say. But I'm going by once you beat the game and you get your final stats, you can get extra points if you don't kill any innocent people. And in my playthrough, according to the game, I did not kill any innocent people.
Well, again, remember the people that were around that campfire and that you tried to kill but end up sneaking around them, those were innocents in the sense of like what they were doing. They were only doing that to protect what they had, especially families up in the second floor.
Right.
And since you didn't kill them, like again,
Uh-huh.
it wasn't affected. But like again, that's the context. They weren't really gonna be bothering you if you just snuck around them. Same with that other guy with the big guy, especially when you hear him. When you listen to this man, the bald guy, the big bald guy,
Wait,
when
hold
you
on.
hear him talking,
Does he say something like, oh, like he comments that he hasn't seen anyone in ages?
yes.
That nope, that's not.
And then
I did not kill him. That's not the. No, there's another
oh
guy.
wait, no, not the black guy.
Okay.
So okay, remember you got the first jerry can
Yes.
and you put it in the elevator and you go down one floor.
Yep.
Then you get out. There's that one guy there. There's one guy with a machete there. And then as soon as you get near him, he starts saying like, "How did you get here?" I ran back up with I took the elevator back up, and he literally starts saying things like in an almost Shakespearean way.
I'm really
Um,
Which elevator did you fill up?
the one that was in the camp of people.
Okay, because the way it went down for me was that um I made it to where you have that small group of people. I gave those salts to that guy who was sick, and then
Hmm.
after that I started to scale inside the elevator to find a jerry can to turn one of the engines on. I ended up scaling pretty high and ended up going to a floor where there was a single guy there who he himself, there's a jerry can in that room he's in. He attacks me. I defend myself. And then I get that jerry can. And then I was like, oh, I can use this to help the people in that floor. And so I then scaled down to that same group I just left, and I was able to activate their elevator, and the elevator that I use is the one that goes lower. Is the one that goes lower in the building than the other one. I believe that's the one I used, and I didn't encounter any other enemies after that, or someone who tried to attack me.
Well, then I don't know because that means you completed the elevator. I didn't fix it.
Well, there's two elevators you can fix.
Yeah, exactly. I only did one.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get to unless we both recorded this and saw each other. We can go in circles about anything. But in either case, at least as far as the game's concerned, I didn't kill any innocent people, and they added and they added that to my percentage score. So I have a good conscience for all these fake digital NPCs.
Oh, did you also avoid eating the meat?
Yes, I did. I did that too. Only because I never used it. I did not. It did not dawn on me that that was human.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was okay. So, going back on topic of like the progressing through the story.
Yes.
Um, whenever, so you saved a few people in the very beginning. There's a med kit there. You get your first retry because the person needed that, and it shows you how you get retries. Then you go down to the sewers again. Oh, yeah, more or less. You're going down the sewers again, skipping a few events, and there's this old couple just sitting there and by a bonfire. They're saying, "Oh, look, he must be hungry. Here, you can have some of our meat." And I mean, of course, you go ahead and take the meat. Now, the interesting thing is that when you look, it doesn't really dawn on you until you start putting some pieces together because you look at the meat and then you look at the blood trail
That.
and
Yeah.
then you start following the blood trail into a random little section where there's two people guarding that. And this is where actually I used up most of my retries just so I can be able to save one bullet. And
I know where I did the same thing too.
because what ends up happening is I needed that bullet to be able to get the survivors in that area.
Yeah, because
Once when I
there's
dispatched the two enemies.
yeah, because there's a gate with a lock on it, and you have to shoot the lock off.
Correct. There is a gate with a lock, so I went ahead and shot it, and it didn't dawn on me until that moment where I'm like, "Oh, these people are eating others."
Cannibals. Yeah, we got
Yep.
cannibals in the game, and and after you leave the sewer, that doesn't really become relevant, but you will always have that meat, that item of meat on you, reminding you of that. Hey, if you're really hungry, you really need that health. Why not try a little human? What could go wrong?
And funny thing is, there is 1 second instance of the meat. You just have to find it kind of laying there on the floor, which is kind of gross. But when you do pick it up, your character then says, "Huh, there's that funny meat again."
Oh yeah, that was like the hub, walking around the hub world, the city
Yes.
hub. Which actually, can we talk about the hub city real quick, because that's a big part of the game.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know how you feel about this, but in my opinion, I hate that hub world. I hate it. I despise walking through that. I understand narratively why they designed it that way, which we will explain what's so unique about it. But every time I had to go, especially once the dust storms start coming in, having to walk through that hub world was, that to me, that was the sections I dreaded the most in that entire playthrough. Jack, how do you feel?
For me, I never really stayed too long in the hub worlds, other than knowing which path to go to help out not enemies, victims. But it was frankly more of one of those things where I was just used to it. Of okay, let me go to this area. All right, I'm half in my stamina. Let me go up to a high part. Let me go back down. Okay, let me keep going where I'm going. Oh, half on stamina again. Let me go back up.
Yeah. So again,
And that was mostly an issue for me, like in the sense of like I did that, like I had an understanding that I did that to myself because I had 16 sodas, 13 waters, four
oh
food,
my god, you were
2
hoarding, weren't
inhalers.
you?
Yes.
This isn't a JRPG. You should use those items.
No.
Oh my
Because
god.
that's how I get those. That's how I went and got the 5 extra survivors than you.
No, you got the 5 extra.
And-
You got the 5 extra survivors because you did more spelunking
And
than me.
I will ask you this:
Uh
Did you get the shotgun?
huh. No, I did not get the shotgun.
I rest my case.
Uh,
Because what you need for him was one. You needed 1 food, 1 water, 1 salt, 1 meat, and then he gives you the shotgun.
give him a whole meal bar, don't you?
Actually, no, it was 2 food cans. Sorry, but yes.
Where was this in the hub area, or it was in a certain section?
So it was in the hub area.
Okay, so that's
Did you remember a part where, when you were going across I think it was a broken down headlamp or something, and you saw this guy hobbling?
I did. I did because you passed by him so many times. I assumed that was just some crazy guy that as soon as I entered his vicinity, he was gonna start attacking me. And plus, uh, I guess it's on me. But again, I said I hated going through the hub areas, and
Mhm.
and because of that, I did not want to explore it. I wanted to get to the next session as quickly as possible. And there was one instance where two instances where I did branch out to help some survivors that I come across. The 2 of them being the guy you get the dying guy you give the cigarette to, and the woman who was forced to be a honey trap.
Yep.
Those are the 2 instances I help up people from what I recall in the hub world. But other than that, especially as when the dust storm comes in, because one of the things that makes you really hate going to the hub world is that when the dust storm settles in, not only does it limit your visibility, it also constantly drains your stamina as long as you're in that storm. And the only way to recuperate, aside from using an item, is you have to constantly reach higher elevation, regain your stamina, and then go back down. And this was very annoying near the middle part where the dust storms come in. Now, eventually, the game gives you a gas mask, so you're able to persevere in the storm a lot longer. But when it became nighttime, Jack, I wasn't gonna quit, but when it became nighttime, the game became visually frustrating for me. And that's where the film grain stuff started to really annoy me, because there was already so many things to limit your visibility, and adding that film grain was just something that already made things hard to see. And again, I understand that that's the point, that because it's a dust storm, you're not going to be able to see things that's more than 2 feet in front of you. That doesn't necessarily make for interesting gameplay, since all the whole world is just an area of the game for you to gather more resources, which what JAC did, and just to get you from one point of the map to another, while you have to do some platforming because all the streets are destroyed and structured. So you end up having to always take alternate routes to your destinations. And so because of that, these sections always overstay their welcome, and visually were a mess. And as soon as I saw that yellow light of progress, which every time you reach the end of a section, you enter a small yellow light for you to start the next section. As soon as I saw that, I just went straight through and wanted to deal with any of that nonsense. So it's kudos to JAC that he had more tolerance for all of that and able to save 5 more people and get a really powerful weapon in the game.
And to add to what Hack was saying, so when it came to the night section, I will agree with you. I completely agree with you because since I had the convenience of being very prepared, I just went straight for the next section. Straight for the next section because, well, one, time limit. I didn't really have enough time, of course, in like less than an hour. No, in an hour, I had this to do. And others, I am not going to go in the nighttime with the dust trying to find the potential of 3 more people. I say 3 because the first person that I failed to get to and I really wanted to go back for, but I just could not figure it out and I didn't really care for, was the guy that was under some rubble, not in the hub world, but at that first skyscraper. Do you
Well,
remember that one?
Was it? Did he need a? Did he need a health kit?
Yes.
And he was kind of like, I think like he was with a group and they abandoned him, and so he was just kind of
Yes.
by himself in the. It was in the construction site, right?
Yep.
Okay, I remember. I did. I had a health kit at that moment, so I was able to help him.
I did not have one at that moment, so I could not help him. And the moment I did get one, I tried to get up there again, but I realized quickly that the game does not allow you to go back. So I was just like, oh, well, he's dead.
Oh, really? So once you're done with the section, you can't go back. You can't go back there. Oh wait, yeah, that's true. Cause there was a few back to the skyscraper again, which that's I guess the section where I did a lot of the exploring, just because I wanted to do the elevator thing. After you do the fireworks and you climb back down, you uh basic they they limit the areas you explore, the areas that you can explore, so that you can't go back to the previous rooms that you climbed through at the beginning of that section. So yeah, the game. So before you leave an area, if you want to get everything there, you have to search high and low, because once you progress through, you can't go back.
Yep.
And
So that guy's dead, and I guess 3 others are dead too in my save through.
now to actually take a break from the gameplay a bit, we should mention the story, or rather, it's a very straightforward story. That so throughout this entire game, your main character's motivation is that he wants to find his wife and daughter. What ends up happening to him very early on, like pretty much past the tutorial section, and you make it to your old apartment, you end up finding a little girl who's been separated from her mother. You save her, and you go on to this adventure through the sewers into a mall to return the little girl to uh to 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 a gentleman that she trusts and that she knows, who there's only, let's see, one, two, there's only three named characters in the entire game, if I'm correct, right, Jack?
Yeah.
Yep. And there's the little girl May, the man she knows who's wheelchair bound, Henry, who pretty much, he's the guy that gives you your mission objectives basically, and May's mother, Linda, who you meet in the latter half of the game, who I'm also thankful is not who, even though she does tag along and follows you, at no point do they make you do an escort mission and try to protect her while you try to fight other people. Thank God. Like they
made it obvious.
yeah, they make sure, like, hey, stay here and don't come out until I'm done. She's like, and she listens.
Like literally the first point of when you're following her to the next destination, she goes up to the second floor and then she goes, "Can you go check to see if the coast is clear?" As soon as you go through and check to see if the coast is clear, 5 individuals come out of everywhere. I swear they were coming out of the ceiling too.
Coming out of the walls, man. That's true.
Oh, I actually want to ask you, how did you fight in that situation?
Like a man.
Oh, I was hoping to see like your battle tactics here, but all right.
That's my battle tactic. That's all my tactics. That's how I play every strategy game, like a man. No, it's a serious answer. if I can remember, it was basically a combination of shooting the shooter first, rushing to grab their ammunition, and well, actually no, I lied. So what ended up doing, unless there was the shooter was there first and I shoot him first, what ended up always have that I always have my range weapons first set on my bow and arrow, because it takes you gotta wind it up before you can shoot it, and because unless you lose it permanently, it's an item that you can always get back. And so I always use that first because it's the slower weapon, and plus you can use it against the armored enemies. You gotta headshot them, or
yep.
So I use the arrow first, and then switch to the sidearm, like Call of Duty. Switching to sidearms faster than reloading. All of that. So I would do that, and usually when I do that, I'll either get the next bullet to shoot the third enemy, because usually it's either 4 or 5 enemies at a time. I think the last one was like 6. Yeah, so only at the end do you get to fight the maximum, but majority of the encounters you either get between 2 to 4 enemies at a time, and so you can plan out how you want to take them out, and with the weapons and resources that you have. And so I always end up to make sure to use my arrow first, so that once I kill that person, I grab my arrow back, or if I had to switch to a gun, I would do that instead, shoot whoever's coming after me. So my whole game plan was pretty much shoot first, grab the resources second, and take out whoever's left third, and whoever's the last guy, take him out with the machete.
For me, it was a little bit more hectic, because since the cool thing about one of the mechanics in the game is that once when you do end up meeting the armored enemies, you get to take their armor.
Oh yeah, which was very helpful in the end game.
And what was very sucky for me though was the armored guy was the one that was coming at me and shoving me around. Meanwhile, the shooter was to my right, and the other 2 machete guys were right behind the armored guy.
Yeah. Oh, and for context, because a lot of the game is focused on doing surprise attacks, as we mentioned. I should have mentioned also that anytime I do enter a complex zone, I'm sure it's the same for JAC. Usually, let the enemy walk toward us so we can quickly kill them with a machete. However, with the armored enemy, even if you aim a gun at them, they'll still come in and attack you because they're wearing body armor, so they'll shooting them won't do anything. So that's why he's saying. That's the important context to add, that if the body armor guy attacks first, you don't have time to get your arrow ready to shoot him, because for some reason, for the way they designed it, once you set your arrow and you hold the trigger to pull it back, if you want to aim actually at a specific body part, you have to then, at least on a controller, you have to press the right stick in order to manually aim, and you have to do that with every armored enemy. And because you need those extra few seconds to aim, if he comes at you first, you pretty much have to start running away, get some distance, so you can even kill the guy, if there's even room enough for you to run.
Yep. So for me, it was quite a predicament because, I mean, it was a predicament to a certain to a certain degree because I really wanted to keep the bullets that I had, or I had at this moment I had 4 shotgun bullets, 1 bullet for my pistol, and the 1 arrow that the game gives you.
Oh, I should
I didn't
ask.
want to.
Since I didn't get the shotgun, w- did you have to use that on a specific enemy, or was that a it kills everyone type of weapon?
I was never able to use it in a group setting. Like, in the sense, like, most of the times, the good thing about the game is it gives you a certain, like, most of the times you would never need a shotgun. So yeah.
That's true. I was able to beat it without ever getting it, so it's a completely optional weapon.
So with the shotgun, I treated it as like a secondary pistol. Even then, like, there was no way to, like, I wasn't gonna test out to see if it had any sort of slugs or pellets. So it was a big shock to the armored guy when I got close enough to the guy that was to my right. I, I killed him with the regular gun, told the others to back up, switched to the shotgun, and while the armored guy was getting right on top of me, he just had his face meet my shotgun.
Nice.
And then the other guys, I went ahead, got the other one with a bow and arrow, and I kind of kicked the other one into the fire pit.
See, you did fight like a man. Uh,
I did take a few hits, but at the same time, the hits wouldn't have mattered because of the fact that I had armor.
exactly. Uh, oh, but to go back, because I did want to briefly talk about the story. Like I said, it's very straightforward. It's
Mm-hmm.
you. A lot of it is that you pretty much you have to do certain objectives in order to help this small group of survivors. That being again the only named characters in the game: the little girl May, her mother Linda, and their protector Henry, who I should look this up, but I'm pretty confident that the voice actor for Henry is the same voice actor for Adam Jensen for Deus Ex, Human Revolution and Mankind Divided. I am for certain it's the same guy. I recognize that voice anywhere.
Elias Stofixes.
I try to look for his name in the credits. It didn't in the unless I missed it. I did not see any voice acting credits in the actual credit scroll.
Oh, I just looked it up on Wiki right now.
I see, but yeah, it was nice to hear his voice and just and it made me remember. Man, I gotta actually beat those Deus Ex games one day. One day. Well, let's say the story is very straightforward. You're pretty much having to either do an objective so that you can help this small group of survivors, and by the end of the game there is a last minute a last minute not twist, but what's it, I guess not there's a last minute like raise of the stakes where everyone is separated, and so you have to uh basically rescue the mother. Not you have to rescue the child again at the end. I don't think you can rescue Henry. He's pretty much dead.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, you can't, and he is in a wheelchair. There's not much he could do in that situation. And for the mother Linda, uh, one thing I noticed again, because it's a game with a very low budget and there is a lot of reason of assets. Uh, it immediately kind of made me chuckle a bit that all the young women in the game dress the same. That being that, I'm guessing because before the event they were just, I guess, regular office ladies, and so they're
Yeah.
even a year later they're still in their office clothes, just in these tattered white blouses and pencil skirts.
I mean, if you think about it, look at the freaking E3 trailer
I,
for the 2008 one. You saw the what I'm assuming was Adam's boss still wearing a like I was even thinking to myself like why is he still wearing a suit and wanting water?
that is true. I wonder if that was gonna be a thing for the setting, but I think the only remnants of that is that only the young women are dressed in their office attire. All the rest of the characters are just regular raggedy clothes. And at first I thought I was like, okay, that's kind of you want to make the young women look very alluring, but then they give a kind of an in-world reason of why the women are even dressed that way. It doesn't apply to all of them, but when you have to rescue May's mother, Linda, you have to go to a hotel, which is which that section it's a pure combat section, and the hotel has pretty much been converted into a post-apocalyptic brothel. And so
Yep.
you have this whole gang of these you have a whole gang of men who have most likely kidnapped all these young women and forced them to do their fleshly pleasures. And Linda
Yep.
almost became a victim of that. Which I should ask, in that hallway before you go to meet Linda, did you save that other young woman who was about to get like yeah, I can say this, who was about to basically get raped by that weird old guy?
Oh yeah, I basically domed him with the arrow.
Same here. I almost didn't, only because um not because I didn't want to do it, but because I wasn't
You
sure
thought it
if
was gonna be like some alarm.
no, I wasn't sure if I technically could, because um I was
That's
waiting.
right. The game doesn't really give you an indication because you don't
Yeah, because it
lock on to the enemy.
exactly, because in regular enemy encounters, the game automatically locks you to the nearest enemy, and you have to move the camera if you want to switch it, which is not the best, but it works. So because I didn't get that indication that I could lock on to the rapist, I thought that okay, maybe this is supposed to be like a part of the scenery where it's so to see how seedy and disgusting this place is. But I was like, you know what? I'll take the risk. If I lose the arrow, I lose the arrow. I shoot him, and there's like, oh, okay, I could kill him. And then I was like, wait, but I want my arrow back though. And
And
but
then the door
luckily,
opens and you're like, oh, thank God.
yeah, luckily, there's a transition to a black screen. The door opens and you can get it back. So yeah, I was also relieved when that happened. I was like, oh, okay, good. I did the right thing and I got my resources back.
Yep, yeah. Being virtuous helped out in the end.
There, yes. Uh, Going back to kind of the more when you're in your combat, uh, was there any reason to? Okay, so when you when you down an enemy, you have the choice of pretty much to finish them, like to actually do like the killing blow to them.
Hmm.
At first I didn't do it because hey, look, the once I got them down, there was no I have no reason to kill you. You're defenseless. You can't do anything to me. Eventually, once I come across like the actual gangs who were, they're going to kill me, and and these are not good people. I end up doing that. And at first, I thought that that was gonna end up being some sort of hidden mechanic that was gonna penalize me in the end, but
Hmm.
nothing came of that. So I wonder if either I don't know. Was there any point to that mechanic? Like, did the enemies who are down who call for help, do they actually call in more people? Like, I always felt that was kind of a weird thing to add that didn't really contribute any other aspect to the game.
I have a theory because I even made a note about that too. And really, my only best guess is this: it's the fact that it's more of like an artistic choice that the designers added
I think,
because of the
yeah,
fact
I
that
can see that.
because of the fact that this game, especially at the very end, it gives you bonus points for humanity. It it just it's basically there as either however you want to interpret it. The way I interpret it is that you are literally putting them out of their misery because when your character goes into the animation, he looks away for a split second to be like, "Oh God, am I really gonna do this?" and does it anyways.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I think I can see that. I guess I think I only wish there was like there was actually something mechanic to it because as far as like I'll put it this, I guess I compared it like to other games that do penalize you if you kill a downed opponent. The one that I could think of on the top of my head is the Metal Gear games. The original trilogy. You know, you can go to you can do no kill runs in those games, and I don't know about four, maybe four, but in five, you know, if there is, you do get penalized if you kill down enemies. You know, you get your demon points. So I was thinking of maybe that the Ubisoft Shanghai maybe thought that far ahead of maybe there's some hidden attribute or something to make you feel bad that you're killing all these people, but because nothing comes of it and there's no apparent consequence in game to make you feel bad for doing that. If that was the artistic intent, I personally I personally have the opinion that 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 wasn't conveyed well, and so kind of missed the mark. Another way to see it is that maybe they had plans, different design plans for that mechanic, and they completed that, but maybe didn't have the resource or the time to further develop it. And at a certain point, they because that is such a ingrained mechanic in the combat, it would have been much harder to redesign the game if you take it off. So they decided to leave it in since it's already there, and you know you can choose as the player whether or not you want to do the final kill, and nothing comes out of it. So that's also
Yeah,
one thing to look at too.
I think all of what you said was very plausible because of the fact that again, at this point, since it was left there, it was either purely for aesthetic reasons or because again they just did not have time to take it out. At this point, I choose to think of it as an aesthetic, and at the same time more like world building because if you think about it, this world has receded from the electronic age to the modern era back to basically Stone Age in a sense,
Not
in
complete.
certain aspect.
I think
Because like
a better way I'll say it went from the modern age to like the industrial age.
there you
what
go.
it
Because
is.
like the thing is, there is no medicine that can. It's very hard to find it.
Mm-hmm.
So any cut and bruise might as well be an infection, and the fact that you put a hole into someone, either be it through God knows what type of arrows you've been given. They could have been barbed for all I care. If it's barbed, that guy is dead.
Yep.
If he has a bullet, he's also dead. So you're just putting them out of their misery at that point.
Yep. And now, as far as world building, it's very limited. Like well, in the beginning when describing like the summary, the we don't know exactly what happened. Everything just keeps saying
Oh,
the event. You have
oh,
go ahead.
actually, you get more of the information through the survivors that you help.
That is true. So there's that also incentive by helping people. Not only you get more retries, but you get more lore. And of course I always have 11 people, so I got slightly half of the lore in the game.
Basically, it is the event was exactly what happened with the 2008 trailer. very, very, very dangerous tremors that still happen,
Mm-hmm.
has destroyed infrastructures and kicked up a lot of dust.
And
And it's not happening just in that certain location, but just like around the world. And a lot of the governments are collapsing because they try to help, but they could not help.
yep,
So a lot of these survivors, they're saying things like, "We try to go to a shelter, but the shelters just don't work anymore."
yep, they got too full, wasn't big enough, and then as society collapsed, people started to be more savage and either join gangs and do very inhumane things. And now, to briefly bring back the hub, as much as I dislike it, one thing I do appreciate is that they make sure to really convey that you're in a dead, broken world. And actually, initially, before, I actually thought that the event might have been some sort of nuclear holocaust due to the fact the amount of burnt skeletons you see scattered throughout the hub world and in all the different areas that you traverse through.
Mhm.
I thought that was actually the case, but it again, I think it was something else that may have caused it. I'm thinking it was a nuclear blast, since put a nuclear bombs in a very specific area, you can cause earthquakes and tremors and uh peop and I don't know if it causes dust storms, but you can cause a lot of environmental damage in the long term than just the radiation from a bomb or the bomb itself. But
That could be a case, but because like if you think about it, with the guy that gave me the shotgun, um, getting a closer look to him, he is very much deformed because he hides himself behind a some sort of like blanket. But if you kind of like go to the left and look over, you can kind of see how he looks like. He's very lumpy and almost looks like the Hunchback. I don't
he walks
know,
like a hunchback.
and the thing is, like, we don't really know if he was born that way or if
Yeah,
maybe Hack's theory about nuclear winter it could be it.
yeah, and that's not really the point. The setting gives you just enough that, hey, the world has gone to crap, and this is how it is. And the lore you do get, uh unless maybe there's a definitive answer if you rescue all 20 survivors, but everyone pretty much kind of talks around it and just call it the event and the effects
Mhm.
of it. But as far as in my playthrough, no one actually tells you what the event actually is. And you know what? That's fine. We don't. Not everything has to be known. You get the you can draw your own conclusions if you play the game and notice all the details that either I overlook or Jack overlook. You can draw your own conclusions of what kind of disaster happened. Which is also part of in a macabre sort of way, part of the fun of it.
And also the fact that whenever this is going more into the whole story of it, whenever your character is talking with Linda about his whole little mini backstory, he mentions like, and this kind of shows how the event is not just localized but and pretty much global, because he mentions how he had to walk from the East Coast
Mm-hmm.
to the area that he's currently in.
Yeah, which I don't think they say where Habiton is, but we can probably assume the West Coast. Consider if it took him a whole year to to get over there.
Yeah.
And and wait, it has to be the West Coast. There's because at the end of the game, there is enter in a music park that's near a port. So obviously, yeah, that pretty much narrows down to that Havington is supposed to be a New York City or uh think big New England area with its own with his own port where ships come and go and all of that.
Yeah.
Um, you know what? I think one thing, I think the last thing we could talk about, because we're going on 2 hours. We got a lot to talk about. One thing we have not one thing we have not discussed at all is like the main mechanic of the game is the platforming. Like, we explain what it is, but we haven't talked about our experience of it too much. Focus on the combat and other aspects of the game. So I want to give my piece on the platforming as briefly as I can. And that at first I initially thought I was going to dislike it because I'm not too fond of games that have stamina management as a mechanic. But but because the game is greatly designed to use it, and at least on normal difficulty, very rarely are you put in a situation where you can't either recover it or you don't have an item to get more stamina or to fix your amount of stamina you can have. There was only a few instances where the way I platform put me in a disadvantaged situation. But if you're smart in how you platform, it could honestly it's just fun to just climb around and to be scaling in all the different type of places you scale. Like, to quickly go through it, you scale a mall, and in the beginning, you scale a construction site, you scale a skyscraper, and to enter that skyscraper, you have to go to another skyscraper that's leaning on it. So for such a low budget game, they give you these really fun set pieces for the platforming, and in my mind, I'm just thinking, man, this main character has big cojones to be doing all of this parkour stuff when one mistake could be his doom.
Yep, especially with the skyscraper that's leaning, because you can visibly see the street below you.
Yes. I think the only time for me the platforming's kind of push it in terms of buying into that a guy could do this by himself was once they added the grappling hook. I was like, okay, you're kind of pushing it, game. You're kind of pushing it.
Yeah.
Although funny enough, the grappling hook mechanic, because it's used often, but not always. A lot of the times when I'll end up like, okay, where do I need to go? I neglect to look up and look for the little spinning arrows to tell you, hey, use a grappling hook here. That happened to me a few times when I was trying to figure out where to go next, and I just didn't look up.
Yeah, there was at least for me, the grappling hook wasn't that big of a like. The good thing about the game is that the grappling hook, they made it to be a secondary thing rather than a
you're not
continuous part of the mechanic.
Yeah, you're not swinging around like Spider-Man.
Yeah, so like if there is a part where it has a grappling, it's just like it's probably like where designers are like, let's just.
You're just swinging.
I don't know how we can connect this to this, so let's just go ahead and make them swing.
Yeah, I would say I did have a funny death with the grappling hook, and I died in the most stupidest of places. So
I did the same thing.
No, well, let's see. Let's see. Compare which one's stupider. So with mine, in a certain street in the hub, there's that you can get onto that railroad tracks, so that you can easily walk through that street without having to go to the dust storm.
Oh yeah.
And at the end of the railroad tracks, there is a place where you can use your grappling hook to swing to the other tracks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I did that, and it's a very simple platforming thing to do, and somehow, some way, either I didn't have momentum or I didn't aim it directly where I was supposed to jump into, but I shoot the hook, I swing a little bit, and as I'm coming in, I think I jumped too early, and I ended up falling off the railroad tracks and dying. I think that was my most embarrassing death in the entire game. Along with the first the first combat tutorial. Those two are my most like embarrassing deaths because like why? It's like I shouldn't have died so many. I shouldn't have died doing a simple swing, and I shouldn't have died during the first combat tutorial.
For me, it was where and this is how much games nowadays kind of like I wouldn't say cater, but like they make certain mechanics just like a little bit more easier to grasp. It was literally the part where you first get your grappling hook.
Oh, okay. I want to hear this. I know exactly that. I can picture the area when you get it.
So I got the grappling hook, and keep in mind this has been a while since I played the game. So I got the grappling hook. The first thing the game tells you is you look up, you start and you grab it and you start swinging. The only thing is that the game doesn't really tell you as well where to go because as much as I like to praise the game in certain aspects, there are other aspects where I'm like, where do I need to go? And it's kind of hard to tell because some of the surroundings blend in with what's scalable.
Yep. And to add to that, it then it's because it also happened to me a few times. I was like, you know, maybe the yellow paint isn't such a bad design trend because
See?
it's like one of two extremes. Either you're too helpful or nah, just make everything look like a part of the environment that you can't differentiate what is something that is climbable or isn't. Which
Yep. And
now luckily the game is consistent on what you can and cannot climb. The problem is that there are some areas where all of it just kind of blends in together, and it takes you have to kind of like reset your mind a second. Go, okay, wait, where am I? Okay, here's the path. Now that I've separated all of the different elements in this particular environment.
Yep. So I'm swinging from this hook area, and then I don't remember where to go, and I'm looking. I'm like, oh, I'm looking at some like what could be scalable ladder-esque rebarb. I'm like, that looks too far. I don't think I can get there. I look over to another thing that has like the hook, the hooking indicators. I'm like, okay, maybe if I like I don't remember doing this, but maybe I jump and then grab onto it with the hook again and then jump. Nope. I jump and then plummet straight down.
I actually was able to get a weird collision in that area because for context, where the first time you use the grappling hook, you're swinging from a box that you grab the hook from, and you can swing to a part of the construction site that you can stand on. Well, you can technically swing to the platform you were just in, and the game would register that it is an object that you can stand on, and I was able to actually do that. So it looked like I was standing on a very thin platform. Oh, and I did encounter one bug, and this happened in the boat section, which is one of the big combat sections of the game. Yeah, so if you can recall, as you're going through the deeper levels of the boat, there's this room where there's, I believe, 2 or 3 enemies, maybe 4, and there's other people who are hostages. Now, it's in that place where you have that big fire pit going on.
Yeah.
So I was actually a little bit underarmed. I think because I had only 1 arrow and no bullets. So I was trying to figure out how I was able to do this because most of the 2 of the enemies had guns. What ended up happening in one of my attempts to defeat the enemies in that room, I defeat an enemy with an arrow, and because the body was fell right on top of me, I got the arrow back, and then I saw that I need to heal, so I quickly opened the item menu and use an item to heal. And then somehow something collided, something went wrong, and when I turned off the menu, I was stuck. I could not move.
Oh. Ooh.
Out for a brief moment until an enemy hit me, I almost soft locked myself in the game.
Oh wow.
Yep, and I tried, and of course I was like moving my control stick, pressing buttons. The only buttons that work were the menu buttons, and I thought I was like, "Oh no, am I got to reset for my last checkpoint?" But luckily, an enemy hit me out of it, and then I got full control over again. That was the only bug I encountered in the game in my playthrough that almost became an issue.
There was one thing. I think it wasn't really a bug. It's more of a collision detection issue. Because, or no, it's not a collision detection issue. It was more of a logical thing, just like logically looking at something. So remember how that's the first skyscraper that you scale, the mall, you have to kind of like slide down and then like kind of move in a way to avoid pitfalls and just like falling off of the whole building entirely.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh wait, no, this is construction site.
Yeah, I remember. That's the one where they teach you the roll mechanic. You can roll as you're sliding down, so you can move greater distances as you're sliding.
Yes. So, there is a point where, as soon as you're sliding down, you have to hold down and then stand on a ledge, right? Or like grab onto a ledge to be able to stand on the platform that's right next to it, right?
Right.
So, I'm doing the mechanic. I am right at it. And as soon, I guess I let go of the button too early to slow down. So even though I was already slow as it is, and inches away from the ledge, my character decided to ignore grabbing the ledge. And then, like, this felt like it was in slow motion. Landed on the ledge and then died. Just crumpled. He just crumpled standing. I felt like I was playing Oblivion, where you end up dying and your character just crumples.
Oh, so he didn't like even fall. He landed on this ledge, and then just this death animation played.
Yeah.
Okay. that you know what? Oh, that would have been funny to see, because when you do die, you do get a little bit of ragdoll. So a little bit of ragdoll is always funny. One of the benefits of the Unreal Engine. And with all that, I think we can start closing things off. And I actually did write down on my notes my final thoughts of the game, and I actually want to quote myself. Get my reading glasses over here. I lie. I don't have reading glasses. Jack does though. He has them. He has them permanently.
Yep.
And I'm gonna go ahead and read. Well, first I want to give my final stats of the game, and then my final overall opinion. So, of course, my final stats are: I saved 11 out of 20 victims. I didn't steal any resources from innocents. I didn't eat human flesh. I died 37 times.
Oh, wow.
My playtime is 4 hours, 56 minutes, and 49 seconds, with a total score of 87%. And here are my final thoughts. I quote myself. Overall, I Am Alive is a unique platforming game that attempts to combine survival and action combat. As a result, the game succeeds somewhat at both. The combat is limited and frustrating to handle quickly, and the lack of a melee attack does hinder the flow of combat and stealth at certain portions, not all cases, but at certain portions is sometimes technically unachievable. This is not a game you can do a full stealth run. There are moments where you have to fight and use your bullets and arrows. Walking through the deserted city is molasses due to the low visibility and the fog that drains stamina, meaning that players must walk over long distances to be optimal. Add to the desaturation, start images, and film grain filter, the game can be unbearable to look at certain times, specifically at during the night section. That was very hard to see. The game's biggest strength is the platforming. Ubisoft Shanghai were able to successfully make climbing tense and thrilling thanks to the stamina meter and the various locations you scale. The story is also competent and engaging enough to motivate the player and their goal. The mechanics mesh well with the environment and setting of the narrative. It's a game that does not have much replay value, but it's entertaining in its core gameplay and plot, and ambitious for a downloadable game. I give I Am Alive a final rating of rental or buy at a discount. All right, Jack, you can go ahead and give your final thoughts of the game.
For me, the game when it came out, it really did push. I would say not even. Who knows? It might have inspired a couple of developers along the way that have taken bits and pieces here and there from this game. I found the game to be very entertaining for what it is and for its price being that of, at the time when I purchased it, I think it was $10. It was $10 well spent for me. The story is quick and to the point for a person that does not have enough time to delve into a full 8-hour game. At most, if you try to go through it quickly, it is 3 hours. So very quick game and easily downloadable. I felt that I would give credit where credit is due when it comes to criticism. The hub world is very slow to progress through, especially for the fact that as much as I enjoy the setting, sometimes when it comes to game design, being realistic is not the best way to make things for a game. So that is where it gets hindered on is its hub world, but the platforming itself is generally very intuitive. It feels very responsive for what it is. And the combat itself, very unique, although it is very limited in its scope when it comes to at least having a dedicated melee button in case of drastic situations. For me, the story itself made a impression not just as an amazing story that's very unique, but just one that kind of thinks a little bit more freely compared to most other post-apocalyptic worlds. And all in all, as a person of here are my stats, completing it at 110%, didn't eat any meats or unusual meats, did not kill any innocents, saved 16. I think at most I died 20 if you're counting retries. And 4 hours of completion, I give this game an 8 out of 10.
All right, thank you very much, Jack. And with that, we are at the end of this longer than usual episode, but you know what? It was worth it to really analyze this game that, honestly, I would say, as much as I have been more critical of it, I think it is a game you should at least try for yourself and see how you enjoy its unique take on platforming and combat, because there might be some things um that are that are not standard for a lot of third person action games, and maybe that's something you might be looking for, a game that tries something new and wants it and stick to it for the most part. So that's one of this game's biggest strength is that it is, you can't really compare it to any other game. It may have similar mechanics, but they Ubisoft Shanghai was able to make a unique game for themselves, and it is very much a shame that the studio is no longer around, and who knows what they could have made in the future. Maybe if there was an I Am Alive 2, they could have really uh taken use a sequel and taken the game to further heights. But that's not the reality we live in. But I am glad that they're able to make the game that they wanted to make, that buckled a lot of the design trends of its time, and because of that, it's a game that you can still play and still have a good time with it to this day. And with that, we'll go ahead and run through our announcements very quickly. I'll go through mine first because I have the least amount to announce. I just wanted to say, first and foremost, I apologize for not fulfilling my end of having a Fatal Fury stream this past week. Things just got busy and it was hard to make time to do the stream with having the full energy to do so. I will promise to make up for it for this coming week, especially now that the Daredevil videos are finished. I won't be so focused on getting those out. So look forward to me for some actual streams on my solo channel, The Only Hack. And of course, the episode of Spire Blood is still in development. Jack, go ahead with your announcements.
For me, with college being over, at least for now, and hopefully forever, everything will be going back to business. I do not have any for sure plans of streaming tomorrow, but you can expect my streams on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday again. From there, we are going to be playing more of the Pokemon Emerald randomizer. We'll see what we end up dealing with through that, and also continuing with our gameplay of Twilight Princess. But that's about it for me.
Awesome. And of course, you can watch all of Jack's streams on twitch.tv/JustJackVT. And with that, thank you everyone who stuck around to the very end of this episode. Please, if you enjoyed this and you'd like to see more of this type of episode format for future games, please let us know. This is something I would love to do, more so just to have dedicated episode to a game from our past, and because we always have a lot to talk about, and there's also be a grab, and it always is a grab opportunity to talk about games that doesn't get talked about a lot. So again, if you really do enjoy this episode, if you're alive, make sure you like the stream, and if you're watching the replay, also like the stream, and leave a comment so that we know that you are enjoying this content. So with that, thank you very much for watching. And this is HAC and JAC, sign off.
Good night, everyone.